So they are the three men in glittering velvet robes, fake beards, and bedazzled crowns in the nativity play. Bearing gifts, they traversed afar, following yonder star through the back of the sanctuary in the grand crescendo of of our beloved annual Christmas pageants. That is always one of my favorite moments in the Christmas pageant, when the mysterious visitors from the east take the stage. There is something about the story of the Magi, the mystery that is wrapped up in these visitors who saw a star and were curious enough to chase after it. I often think if Luke, the historian, had written the story of the Magi in his Christmas narrative, we might have more precise details. Luke was all about the details. But instead, Matthew wrote it. And his vague account is shrouded in mystery. He says, "Now after Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea in the days of King Herod, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem." And that's all that we know. Intrigue has always swirled around those foreigners. Where did they come from? With a wink, Matthew tells us, from the east. His description is so utterly specific that church traditions in dozens of countries claim to be the country of origin for the Magi. The early church even gave them names and assigned them places of origin. Gaspar was from India, Melchior was from Persia, and Balthazar was from Arabia, or sometimes Ethiopia. Tradition has given the idea that there were three Magi. Why is that? Because there were three gifts, right? Gold, frankincense, and myrrh. So there must have been three. Most likely, there would have been more than three. A collection of scholars who had knowledge of ancient texts. They were astronomers, philosophers, those well-versed in ancient prophecy, and so much more. Though it is fascinating to speculate about these mysterious visitors, there are some things we will never know. And sometimes we can get bogged down in the details that are irrelevant to the bigger picture. I think what truly captures my attention is the curiosity with which the Magi begin their journey. You see, they were seekers, always searching for truth, for answers, for anomalies and irregularities. The Magi, those wise and learned scholars, knew the ancient and sacred texts of all religions, which meant that they were familiar with the Jewish prophecy of the coming of the Messiah. And one night, as they were looking up and studying the night sky, looking towards the heavens, they noticed something new, something different. A star unlike any other star they had ever seen. It was a new bright star that was transfixed in the night sky. As stars usually move through the sky, right? This one stood in one place. So filled with curiosity, they charted that star. They asked questions. When did it appear? Where is it fixed in the sky? What was it saying? Where was it leading? Were the scriptures true? Could this be the birth announcement which the world for centuries had been waiting? And so their curiosity sent them on a journey to see for themselves that which they had read and studied. Can you imagine that journey? We've all gone on a road trip. The comforts of our vehicles, gas stations, rest stops, fast food along the way. The terrain that they traveled over, there were no roads or shortcuts. The provisions they had to carry for this journey, because there were no grocery stores or mini marts or McDonald's along the way. The amount of time that it took. A caravan of camels are not known for their speed. Think about the determination and the commitment those travelers had to have in order to bring their quest to fruition. The curiosity of wonder that spurred them on to their final destination. They went seeking answers, but they found so much more. I believe we can learn from their actions. The Magi were observers of the world around them and beyond, so much so that they were aware of a difference in the night sky. Once they detected the star and discerned it was pointing them to the divine, instead of ignoring it or simply observing it from afar, They decided to make the treacherous and arduous journey closer to Christ. On their quest, they crossed over geographical, political, religious, ethnic, and cultural boundaries to seek out the newborn child. Once they arrived, they were filled with joy at the sight of the child and humbled themselves before him, bowing and bearing gifts. They also listened intuitively to their dreams and evaded Herod's deception, choosing what is perhaps a more difficult journey home by a different route. When we look closely at the Magi, we can glean from them their sense of curiosity. We can ascertain how to be a seeker. We can discover how to be one who persistently seeks the sacred. It is perhaps with a continual sense of curiosity, of awe and wonder that we too need to approach the Messiah, to look with new eyes to deepen our understanding, to embrace the mystery, and continue to actively seek answers and understanding. Not to hold back, but to press on, journeying closer to Christ, to keep seeking, filled with awe and wonder. I love what our author, Cole Arthur Riley, wrote in his book, This Here Flesh. He wrote this. He says, awe is an exercise both in doing and being. It is a spiritual muscle of our humanity that we can only keep from atrophying if we exercise it habitually. Awe is not a lens through which to see the world, but our sole path to seeing. Any other lens is not a lens, but a veil. And I've come to believe that our beholding, seeing the veils of this world peeled back and again, if only for a moment, is no small form of salvation. Wonder is the practice of beholding the beauty. Wonder is about having the presence to pay attention to the commonplace. When we, like the Magi, are filled with awe and wonder, that deep sense of curiosity, we no longer seek answers, but instead we pause and behold. We did not simply live out our faith as observers, but actively seek ways to live out our faith with others. Always learning, always serving, always beholding the majesty and glory of Jesus that surrounds us. For the Magi, what may have started perhaps as a journey of simple curiosity, to see if the prophecy had truly come to pass, ended with immense awe and wonder at the feet of the Christ child. Their travels ended with reverence as they bowed down and worshiped the King of the Jews, the promised one, the Messiah. With all they had to offer, these wealthy, wise, and learned men knelt and worshiped. They went on this grand journey with nothing to gain. Such respect and esteem, awe and wonder, and their worship was an act of love, seeking answers but finding more than they could have ever imagined. So as we enter into this new year, I always find it as a good time to pause and ponder the year ahead, to contemplate what God might have in store for us, for me, throughout this new year. To imagine and set goals, small attainable goals work best, but also to think about ways to be curious, how I can seek God in a new way. What is it that I am seeking, and will it bring me closer to Jesus? So this is where our star words or our words of intention come into play. How can this word draw me closer to Jesus? Help me in my seeking, foster my curiosity, deepen my understanding of myself as a child of God. We are called to be curious, to ask questions, to seek answers, to help deepen our understanding, and always seeking Christ in all we do. Seeking truth while we read the scriptures, seeking ways in which we can serve others by being the hands and feet of Jesus in the world. Seeking fellowship with other believers through worshiping together, learning together, praying together, and simply spending time together. Seeking with curiosity, inquisitiveness, imagination, a desire for knowledge, always questioning, always searching, always learning. The wise men who were scholars were filled with a sense of curiosity that set them on a path, looking for the Messiah. I'm sure there were times where the journey was difficult and they were ready to give up, but they kept on seeking the light. Seeking with wonder, possibilities, beholding, pausing to pay attention. Always filled with an awareness of the peculiar, always pondering questions, always seeking possibilities. The Magi were filled with wonder at the star in the night sky. They beheld its glory and followed the path it laid out for them. They didn't seek answers to their questions. They sought the possibility of finding the Messiah. Seeking with awe, amazement, reverence, surprise. Always filled with curiosity. Always approaching our faith with wonder. Always looking with a sense of amazement for the ways that God shows up. The Magi were awestruck when they found Jesus. All their knowledge, experience, worldly wisdom, need for answers and truth faded into the background as they entered the house. And all they could do was bow and worship. So we too keep seeking, knowing that we never have all the answers, but still keep searching for the light, seeking the sacred in the mundane, seeking the light that shines in the darkness, seeking the one who changed the world, seeking, searching with curiosity, never giving up, even when it gets tough. Friends, may we always be curious to know more. May we always seek the truth. May we always be like the wise men, seeking, searching with curiosity. Will you pray with me?